Thank you, Katrina. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen and let's get started. So as Katrina said, let me go to my next slide. My name is Nick Prato. I'm a senior implementation consultant with Cost Management. Been working with Autodesk now about 3 years. My job is primarily helping customers implement the cost management tool within our Autodesk Construction Cloud suite of products. I am based out of Florida. Before I started working with Autodesk, I do come from the industry. I worked at some general contractors in construction, also have a degree in civil engineering, did some design as well before transitioning to the construction side, and then now helping customers all around the US as well as other parts of the world implement the cost management tool. So what we're here to talk about today is to talk about the cost management tool and what its role is within Autodesk Construction Cloud. Also, the session's going to be really just like a high-level overview of the tool and what its capabilities are. And then on some later sessions that Topcon is going to set up with you all, they're going to dive a little bit deeper into the specifics of each tool. So again, today's session is just meant to be really high-level overview just to give you guys an understanding of the features of the tool. And so what we see here are some of the challenges that teams are facing within construction. So inefficient processes and systems, siloed information, schedule and cost disconnect, budget and forecast accuracy, and reporting accuracy. So some of kind of the key things that we see with customers and clients in construction in terms of the issues that they're running into from the cost management side of the project. And this is why our cost management tool exists. And so we're going to go through a couple slides first here to give you guys this breakdown, this intro to cost management, and then I'm going to jump over to the tool itself, kind of walk you through the tool, all the different capabilities it has, and show you that inside of the system. And so within Autodesk Construction Cloud, we have the tools and the systems to let you start a project entirely in Autodesk from that estimating phase and take it all the way to a project closeout. So we have our tools like Autodesk BIM Collaborate, Autodesk Takeoff, Autodesk Build. And today we're specifically focusing on the cost management tool here within Autodesk Build and its role that it has within the construction project. So cost management is primarily for that construction phase of the project lifecycle. So we have our pre-con and estimating phase, and we have that closeout phase. This is that you're in the heat of it, right? You're managing the project, it's being constructed, and that is the main purpose and goal of the cost management tool specifically. And so if I go to my next slide, so how does Autodesk Build deliver on this effective cost management? So kind of 4 key points is centralization, so providing a single source of truth for all cost-related information. Automation adds automation to processes that were typically manual or repetitive in the past. And then we have integration. So one thing that cost management does not do is it's not meant to replace your ERP or your accounting system. It is meant to complement it and give you that extra tool in the toolbox to manage the project the right way out in the field. And so we have integration capabilities with ERP systems so that the data is always in sync between your ERP and cost management. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that in some later slides here. And then insights, so bringing real-time visibility into cost-related risk and project financial health. So these are kind of 4 of the key pillars to delivering effective cost management inside of Autodesk Construction Cloud. So why cost management? So cost management it's a comprehensive financial management solution within a construction management platform. AKA it's designed specifically for construction project teams, right? You have an ERP system that is typically geared a little more toward accountants. Cost management is designed more for that field team, that project management team to manage those financials on the construction site. It is a collaborative platform that allows owners, GCs, trade partners, all to collaborate in a single system. That's typically a gap within the ERPs. Most companies are not going to allow external people the ability to collaborate within their ERP system. PM and financial workflows connected in a single point solution. So within construction, you have a set of project management workflows such as RFIs, submittals. Delivering and having cost management within that PM tool as well allows you to connect those things like RFIs, submittals, issues in the field that occur in that PM tool, and you can connect those to cost management within a single point solution. And like I talked about a little bit on the previous slide, it can be integrated with the ERP, right? So your financials, your accounting financials are always in sync with that project financials. It's super important to have that connection between the two platforms. And then the last point here is cost management is a cloud-based platform versus many ERP systems are still on-prem server-based. And so cost management allows you to just pull up a Chrome browser, pull up a Firefox browser, and access that financial data from anywhere as long as you have internet connection. And I show this picture on the right-hand side is because I talk about how cost management is not meant to replace the ERP system, but it's meant to complement it. It's meant to give you that tool in your toolbox to do the job the most effectively and efficiently. Right? You wouldn't use a hammer on the job site to bang a screw into this wood, right? You wouldn't use a wrench to try and install a nail into this wood. And it's kind of the same idea with cost management and why you would want to use that versus trying to do everything in your ERP system is it gives you that right tool to do the job most effectively and efficiently. In cost management, these are kind of the key workflows within cost management. So we have budget management, which allows you to have that detailed summary, which is actually a screenshot you see right here on the right-hand side. That detailed summary of how the job is doing, how the financials are going within a single construction project. You also have contract management, so allowing you to manage all of your purchase orders, all of your subcontracts, professional service agreements you have with your subcontractors or vendors. You manage that in a connected system. Change management, it's inevitable. Most construction companies are going to run into change orders. You're going to have change management on a project. Having a single point solution to handle all of that change management that comes up on a project, extremely valuable, extremely important, and it all interconnects back to our budget. Payment applications. So ensuring that your subcontractors are billing you and getting paid on time. Having the ability to create payment applications and bill an owner or a client. You can track all that directly inside of Autodesk Construction Cloud Cost Management. Expense management, seeing all of your actuals, your cost to date that you've incurred. Being able to see that inside the platform is super important, so you know where you're at, where you've been billed to, and what your costs are to date. And then lastly, forecasting, being able to have a determination of what your cash flow is. It's super important, especially in today's world, is understanding what is the cash flow coming in from a revenue perspective, what's the money going back out, the actuals that are going back out to the subcontractors and vendors. It's important to have detailed information on that and be able to track that. So what does an integrated single point cost management solution look like? Something like this, right? So if we were to come down here, and what I'll say is this looks a little more like a general contractor workflow. I'm going to talk a little bit more about customization with our cost management tool. So While this looks like it's geared toward general contractor, our cost management tool is highly configurable. It can be used by owners, it can be used by subcontractors. We have a variety of different customers using the platform. In this case, if a general contractor was using the platform, we have this starting point here, and everything originates from that budget. So if you guys go through pre-con, you go through estimating, you're going to have an original estimate that's typically going to be the starting point or the budget that is to begin with within a cost management platform. From there, you're able to manage contracts, all of your subcontracts, purchase orders, your contract with the owner or the client. You're then able to manage all of the payment applications. So those workflows we just saw on the previous slide, payment applications, forecasting, your actuals, all that can tie together with those contracts within cost management. And then up here, we have our change management. And so our change management platform allows you to manage all of your upstream change orders, as I like to call them. So upstream with the client or the owner, submitting change order requests, getting approval for those. And then you're also able to manage those pricing exercises with the subcontractor and being able to send that subcontractor their change order and get them paid for any additional scope on the project. Those change orders are then able to connect back to all of their contracts that are created in cost management, and you're able to see all that development over the project life cycle of where did you start with that contractor and where did you finish with change orders, and get that analysis and that information out of the system. Now, I talked a little bit about ERP and integrations with cost management. And so it's really what you see on my screen here is all the different these are partner companies that we work with, that Autodesk works with, that can build integrations with these different ERP and accounting systems that you see in this box here. And so it's extremely important to have the data in sync with your ERP between cost management. And so we give you that capability to have those integrations and ensure that data is in sync between cost and your ERP system. And so I just want to highlight some of those different integrations that we have. And again, and that's because cost management is not meant to entirely replace your ERP. It's meant to be that tool that complements it. Another key thing, I'm going to talk about this in a little more detail as well in the webinar, is customization. So as an implementation consultant, I've worked with many clients, and one thing that is very important to clients and customers is terminology and their processes and procedures. And every customer tends to have a way in which they want to handle financials and cost management a little bit differently. And so what you see on my screen is all the different tools and parts of cost management that can be configured and customized within cost management to suit your company's specific workflows and your specific terminology and how you want to do things. Again, I can talk to 10 different customers or clients, and all 10 of them will tell me they want to do something differently, whether that be with change orders, how they handle contracts, how they handle their budget, how they want to visualize the information. And so we've developed a cost management tool that's highly configurable, highly customizable to be able to handle those for customers. So what I'm going to do now is that's just a little bit of intro information about cost management, where it fits in the Autodesk Construction Cloud suite of products. I'm going to go over now to cost management here and go over what you can expect to see within the platform in the different tools. And then again, we're going to dive in some later sessions, later webinars that will go into more detail on each tool. So if I slide over my screen now, I am in Autodesk Construction Cloud. And some of you on the webinar might be familiar with the Autodesk Construction Cloud environment. You may be familiar with Build, and now you're trying to learn a little bit more on cost management. So I just kind of want to give you the high level overview here for maybe some who haven't been in the Autodesk Construction Cloud environment. On the left-hand side, this is the product picker. And so if anyone on the call is familiar with Autodesk Build, those PM tools like submittals, RFIs, issues, I can navigate to that by going to my product picker here and going to Build. Now we see this cost management tool that we're focusing on today, and I can just navigate between the two platforms within ACC. And then for those who might not be familiar with ACC, I have my project picker here, so I can switch between my different construction projects. So now I am in cost management, and what do I see in cost management now? On the left-hand side, I am a project admin, and so I'm sure some of the later sessions will dive into, or Topcon will dive into permissioning and how that works. As a project admin, I see all the available tools on the left-hand side. If someone was a member, but not an admin, they wouldn't see settings within cost management, and so they don't have that full control capability to adjust those. But as a project admin, I can see all these tools on the left-hand side. Now, first thing is the homepage. The homepage gives me a high-level overview of where my job is at or where my project is at, as well as some of the open items within the project. So if I'm a PM, I just want a real quick glance at what do I have due this week, maybe what are some open items that are in review, I can come to this homepage and it's going to give me a really high-level overview. So within this calendar view, I have this capability here to click on a week. And in this case, I see something that has a little black dot on it, and it shows me this is something that has a due date for this particular week. Again, you might have pay applications due, you might have change orders that have due dates. I can get a real high-level overview of all the items that are due for that particular week. Then over here, I have this reviews tile. And so within cost management, we have approval workflows, which again, we'll get dove into in a little more detail later on. And this will show me all the open review workflows within my project. It will show me for what workflow, what the review workflow or the item is, and then who's the reviewer, whether that be a role or a user, and who needs to respond to that particular review workflow. So as a PM, I can come in, take a glance at this, know what I need to get done this week, know who needs to respond to any open items. I then have this response due tracker. This shows me all the things that are overdue, which are in red, things that are due in 7 days, maybe things that are due after 7 days. So right now on this tile, I can see I have 2 cost payment applications that are overdue here. Then I have 2 more tiles that I have an original budget pie chart. I can switch between some different categories on this pie chart. I can see a budget and cost trend. These are good for like if you just want like a more visual perspective at a high level. And then if you want to dive more into the specific numbers, you can jump into the budget table, which we'll do here in a second. This is a customizable homepage, so you can customize by clicking this customize, and you can access this card library, and you can move the tiles around and customize to suit your needs. Next item, if I go down here, I'm going to click on my budget. And so within my budget tab, I see these 3 different tools: budget, main contract, budget payment application. So your budget is really your central hub for seeing how a project is doing from a financial perspective. It allows you to see all the detailed information of all of your cost codes or your budget codes. You then have a table that allows you to track all of your data and information from a budget and cost perspective. So I can see where I started in a project, for example, my original budget. I can see all of my change orders that have been improved, where my current budget is now via a revised budget. I can also see any pending items that are out there, where my budget is projected to be at. Then I have a side of the table for cost, so I can see all of my subcontracts and commitments that I've written, any change orders that are out there, and see my projected cost based on that. Then I can see all of my actuals, my items that have been billed to date, so I know what's been billed on this current project. And then I have a section for forecasting, so making forecast adjustments maybe on a weekly or monthly basis to determine what is my final forecast cost expected to be on the job. Then I have a section for variance to see, am I underrunning or overrunning on a particular line item within my table? Do I need to transfer money from maybe my contingency to pay for something, or do I want to transfer buyout savings that I got from writing a commitment and move that in my budget? And then I have a percent complete that shows me what's been billed so far against a line item. Within cost management, you can filter and group in this budget table. So one thing I want to highlight is the configurability and the ability to save different views. And so right now I'm in this default view, but I can create many different views using this funnel here, this filter icon, and I can switch between all kinds of different views that I've created here. So I have a buyout log example, so I want to see the information in a little bit of a different perspective. It allows me to see where my budget is, how much I've committed to contracts, how much I have allocated remaining for the buyout. So a different way in which I want to see the data. I can jump into like a CSI grouped view and see what my roll up is for a particular division. I can see all of my labor. If I want to see all my labor specific items, I can go to that particular view and see all of my cost codes or budget codes that are labor specific. So I have the capability to save all these different views and quickly switch between how I want to view that data. And so that's kind of a high level overview. Again, later sessions are going to dive into how you import this budget and how this budget works in more detail, kind of a high level overview of what you can expect to see in a live construction project. Next tab is the main contract, and this allows you to build what we call a schedule of values with the client or owner that you would have, which allows you to then bill your client or owner in our budget payment application and be able to get that money coming in from a revenue perspective. So the main focus or main objective of this tool is it allows you to set up that schedule values for those budget payment applications. From there, I can then create budget payment applications or client billings, and I can see this schedule of values here is exactly what I set up in my main contract. In this example project, I have some change orders as well at the bottom that are attached. And this tool then allows me to come in and I can bill my client on a monthly basis. In this case, I have it set up to bill on a monthly. You can adjust billing periods if you need to bill them more than once a month. But this is a tool that allows you to track that monthly or billing period that you have set up. If any of you on the call are familiar with US standards, familiar maybe with the G702, 703, AIA, this table is going to look kind of similar to that from left to right. So you can expect it to kind of have that same feel and functionality of what you would maybe see in a G702, 703 document that you may be used to in the past in construction. Next, I'm going to jump down to the cost side. And so now we're going downstream. And so now what we have here is this is where I'm going to manage all of my downstream items with my subcontractors, my vendors on the project. And so I see 3 tabs here. I see contract, cost payment application, and expense. And so within this contracts module, this is where I'm going to manage all of my subcontracts, all of my purchase orders, professional service agreements, master service agreements. Those are just examples of typical subcontractor vendor types that I might have on a project. And so this is going to be that single location to manage all of those. I'm able to filter it out and see by the different types. So I can see subcontract, purchase order. I could then use my filter to group those together, to filter those out, just like I can with my budget. The other thing that's really important is within cost management, anytime you see this blue text, if you click that, it's always going to open up what we call this flyout window on the right hand side. And so within cost, you're always entering data and entering values within this flyout window on the right hand side. So whether that be in my budget, whether that be in cost, change orders, clicking that blue text is always going to open that flyout window. And I can come in here and I can drill into a specific item, whether that be a budget code, whether that be a contract in this case, since we're in the contracts tab, and I can drill down into more specific information and see all the details. Again, a later session, we're going to go through this in more detail, really go through the contracts module, how you set up a contract, how you fill in all these specific fields within the contract module. I have a table then that looks pretty similar to that budget table that we just saw a few minutes ago. So I have a lot of similar columns from left to right to look at these contracts as well. And then I have my gear, my funnel, and my saved view capability, very similar to that budget table as well. Next tab is the cost payment application. And within here, this is where I would manage all of my subcontractor payment applications. So I showed you budget payment application. That's typically for managing a GC payment application to a client or a customer. Now this is managing all of my subcontractors and vendors payment applications on the project. So when I click in here, this is going to be a table of all of my payment applications, cost payment applications that I have currently. So if I need to then drill into one of these payment applications in more detail, I can come in here. I see this square with an arrow. That's going to take me to a specific cost payment application. Before I do that, right now everything's ungrouped, but if I wanted to see all of my billings on a monthly basis, I could come in here to my funnel. I can come over to the grouped. I can say by billing period, and then I can see all my monthly billing periods grouped together. And then if I expand these out, I can see all of my payment applications that are currently open for a particular month or particular billing period. And now again, if I wanted to jump into one of these in more detail, I simply can click this square with an arrow, and that's going to take me into the cost payment application. And the feel of this payment application, the way it looks, the functionality, very similar, almost identical to the budget payment application that we just saw a few minutes ago. It's going to have all the similar columns kind of looking like that G703 table like I talked about within the budget payment application. Main difference here is this is downstream with the subcontractor now. But in terms of table, left to right, very similar. I can switch between my billing periods up here. I can open up my flyout just like I did with my contract. But again, same functionality and feel as that budget payment application. Last tab in here is expenses. And so within expenses, think of this as the area where you're going to capture all of your cost on a project outside of those monthly payment applications that you might have with your subcontractors. So typically, cost payment applications would be used for subcontracts. So that's a certain type of contract here. And subcontractors are going to have things like retention. They're going to bill you on a monthly basis. That's handled via a payment application. Now, when you have things like purchase orders, your payroll on the project, if you have an on-site office trailer, all those other costs need to be captured somewhere, and that's what the expense tab is for. So it's going to capture all those other costs that are hitting your project within cost management. So that way you are up to date on your actuals and your cost to date within this project here. Again, we'll dive into how to add those expenses, how to add those in a later session. But this is where you're going to track all those other costs outside of those cost payment applications. Next, I'm going to go down to change order. And within the change order tool, I see this standard workflow here, and this workflow allows me to manage my upstream change orders to the client. It allows me to manage all of my downstream change orders to my subcontractors and my vendors. And so within this change order tool, I see PCO, potential change order. I like to consider this my risk log. So all of my items that I could have potential cost impact on this particular project. From there, I can then get pricing from subcontractors in what we call an RFQ, or a request for quotation. I can then submit a change order request, we call it a COR, to an owner or a client. That owner can then approve that change order request. Next step is an owner change order. And so very commonly in the general contractor construction world is you'll typically have a length of time in which you'll get approved change order requests from a owner or client. You'll then bundle those couple of change order requests into a one single owner change order. Maybe that's at the end of the month, and you'll get that final approval for the official owner or client contract change via this owner change order. I then have the SCO, or the subcontractor change order, or supplier change order, so I can send that subcontractor a change order for getting paid for the additional scope that they might do via a change order. And then I have a cost item tab, which will just be a running list of what we call cost items that are inside of a change order. Now, this is our default change order workflow, and coming back to the customization of the tool, not every client or every customer, for example, might need the COR and the OCO, and we can configure that and turn certain modules on or off depending on a customer's needs or customer's workflow. So I want to reiterate that customization, while this sample project is just the default setup with cost management, we can turn things on, rename terminology within the platform. So don't feel like this is set in stone, that this doesn't align with your workflows. This can be customized and configured within cost management, which again will be covered in another session when we go into settings in more detail. So within each tab, I can see this running list of PCOs, RFQs, change order requests, owner change orders, and subcontractor change orders. So each tab has its own table, and you can see all the information inside of here. And again, I can click that blue text and open up that flyout window like I did in some of my previous tabs. Next, I'm going to jump down to forecasting. And so it's super important in today's construction environment to have an understanding of what's my revenue coming in, what's my money going back out. And so our forecast will give you the capability to determine that. And so I have a couple tabs here called cost and time, cash flow, and performance tracking. So cost and time gives me the capability to what we call cost loading the schedule, where I can take my schedule items like I have here. I can link those to my budget. So this is nothing more than my budget items from that budget tab here. And then I can get more of like a Gantt chart view like this, where I can see what is my budget over length of time within this view. So I can see this is what I'm projected to spend over these particular months because I have my schedule linked to this budget item. From there, we can further then develop this into our cash flow analysis. So I can come over to my cash flow tab, and I can get a detailed cash flow analysis of what is my projected revenue coming in, what is my forecasted final cost going out, what is my actual cost via this orange line here on a monthly basis. And so I get a full detailed analysis of what was my budget versus what was my forecasted final cost versus what did I actually get revenue on a monthly basis versus what did I have going back out the door as actual costs on a monthly basis. And so you get a real-time analysis of projections versus what actually happened on a monthly basis. From there, you're then able to make forecast adjustments on a monthly basis or even a weekly basis. You can configure that inside of the settings as well, and get better understanding of where we can expect the job to finish from a cost perspective. Next, I jump over to performance tracking. This is a tool designed specifically for self-performed general contractors as well as our subcontractors within cost management. And so this tool allows us to track labor productivity. So understanding how much time it takes to install units of work. So in this case, if I'm looking at this item here, how many hours, in this case, 1,000 hours to install 4,000 cubic yards of concrete. That's super important from a subcontractor perspective to understand how much time it takes to install those units of work to determine if they're being productive on a job. And so we have a planned quantity, so a plan of 1,000 hours and output of 4,000 cubic yards versus a tracked. So what actually happened in the field? How many hours did they use? How many cubic yards of concrete was installed? Which then allows you to determine what's your performance on this particular project for this particular scope of work. And then we have things like performance ratio that determines if you're doing good or bad, if it's higher than 1 or lower than 1. So again, lots of information in this table. This will get dove into in another session, but a great tool for subcontractors using cost management to determine that labor productivity. Next, we have files. If anyone is on the call and is familiar with Autodesk Build or Docs, files is exactly the same in cost management as it is in Build or Docs. It's a mirror image. You have all the same functionality within files as you do within Build or Docs here. So same functionality applies. So I wouldn't say this is necessarily cost management specific, but you need to have access to that same files tree as you have in those other tools like Build and Docs. Then I have reports. So being able to create and run reports is super important in cost management. I need to be able to run the reports of how the job is doing. Might need to send that to executives so I can create reports in my reports log. I can then take these reports, I can download those, share them. I can also take these reports and I can make them templates. And within the template tab, I can then schedule these templates to run on a recurring basis. So allowing you to have a little more automation inside of the platform. So here's a template that I created and I have that scheduled to run automatically. I can then take that, I can edit the schedule, and I can have this report automatically set to run on a certain weekly or even monthly basis on a particular day and time. So reducing that manual need to push a button to go run the report, I can schedule it and let it run automatically, saving me time on a weekly basis here. Then I have the area for members to add members to the project and give them access to cost management, very similar to what you see in Build or Docs if you're familiar with that. And then I have settings. So within settings, I have all these different options here. As I talked about, the tool is very customizable, very configurable. And so within settings, you can go through each tab and you see a variety of different options and settings that can be configured to your particular needs as a customer. And so you can go through each of these and have all these different options and customization capabilities based on the tool that you're trying to configure. And so I talked a little bit about in my slide deck, connected workflows, having a single point solution to connect your PM and your cost management. And so I want to highlight just one of the key things that you can do, and that is if you're in the PM workflow, for example, I'm over here in build now and I have an RFI. If I have an RFI and it changed the way in which I need to install something out in the field, that could potentially have cost impact. Well, I can take this RFI on the fly and I can connect that to cost management by just quickly adding a reference here within my RFI. I can come in here and I can select cost, and I can quickly get a PCO added to my log on the fly here because it's connected in a single point solution. So I can come in here, hit cost, hit add a PCO, and then I can see my entire PCO log currently, but I can also add a new one. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to hit add a new PCO, and I can take this RFI here and I can add it to my PCO log right from this RFI. So I can hit create. What that will do is that will create a PCO, and I can go, sorry guys, I can go back over to my budget now and I can go to change order. And what I can do now is I actually have a view saved, so I can see all of my PCOs that are in draft status. So when you create a PCO out of the RFI, it'll automatically add it to your PCO log and add it as draft. So if I go to my draft status, it'll show me all of my PCOs that are in draft. So I know, hey, this was added from an RFI. I need to now take this and I need to go get pricing from a subcontractor, potentially submit to the owner for additional budget. And I have that connected workflow from the RFI to cost management here. Also, if I open up my flyout window, I have a section for linked references, and that'll show me that this PCO is linked back to that particular RFI over in build. And so again, having that single point solution to be able to connect the PM and the cost management workflows. Another important workflow or connection that's really valuable for customers is, because files is an exact mirror image of what you see in build and docs and in cost management. One great feature is our ability to have the system automatically store all of your cost management information in a single place within files. So when I worked in the field, or if any of you guys worked in the field, you're probably have spent hours and hours and hours in the past of having to go store files somewhere within a file tree. And so with cost management, another big time saver is one of my favorite features that I like to highlight, and that is this documents and attachments feature. And this tool allows you to automatically pick a folder and map all of your cost documentation to it. And so what the system will then do is the system will automatically, in this case, I picked this folder to map everything to. The system will automatically make a folder for every company that's associated with cost management. And it will create a folder for every workflow that that particular company is involved in. And the system will automatically store each change order and each document that's associated with the change order inside of the file tree. So no more spending hours and hours having to go store all the documentation somewhere. The cost management system will automatically store everything for you. So a really valuable tool that, again, connects cost with build, with docs, because this feature will automatically store all the information for you. And then the last thing I want to show during this webinar is, as a company, you need to be able to analyze how a project is doing. How is all of your projects doing at the company? And so this will get dove into in a later session as well in more detail, but the ability to extract data and then analyze that so you understand how your projects are doing. So if I'm over here on my product picker again, I'm in what we call our insight tool, and I'm in this data connector section. And what we have is we have these Power BI templates. If anyone's familiar, Power BI is essentially or not familiar, if you're with Power BI, it's a data analysis tool, and you can extract your data out of cost management via this data connector and link it to our Power BI templates that are available. And so if I scroll down here, I can go down to a section where we have some cost management Power BI templates, and you can see an account level cost management, so you can see how all of your projects are doing in a single account. You can also see things like cost KPIs, how are you hitting KPI targets for the project or all of your projects within cost management. So we have these Power BI templates that are available that allow you to analyze your data within cost management within ACC. So a really valuable piece to seeing that for executives and higher level individuals. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up here for today. That's the intro to cost management. And hopefully anyone who's on the call has gotten a little bit more information, a little bit more details on where cost management fits within the Autodesk Construction platform and why it's important.